I also know that people often have this question. We will later today, when it's available, we will send out a link to the recording of today's webinar. We will not send out the slides because there's actually a limited number of slides. Most of this is going to be Lara with interactive use of Excel. So you get a practical experience in that as opposed to any kind of academic. I'm going to give just another moment for people to sign on, and then we will begin. Okay, I'm going to get started and people can sign on and catch up as we go. Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on the basic use of Excel for your business. My name is Jim Danhauser. I'm a volunteer with the Cape Cod and Islands chapter of SCORE that is presenting this webinar. And I wanted to cover just a few introductory items before turning things over to our facilitator for today, my friend and colleague, Lara Flory. You see listed on this slide the organizations that provide assistance to us in providing this webinar. We're supported by the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce, as well as the various chambers of commerce located in towns throughout Cape Cod and the islands, and by the Community Development Partnership located in Eastham, Massachusetts. As always, we're very grateful to these organizations for their ongoing support of our educational efforts. For those of you who are not familiar with SCORE, we are a fully volunteer nonprofit organization and a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. SCORE's mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. SCORE has been pursuing this work since its founding in 1964 by offering educational opportunities like this webinar and by providing mentoring assistance to people who are in business or who are thinking about starting a business. On Cape Cod and Islands chapter, we benefit from having over 50 volunteer mentors and subject matter experts, people with a broad array of differing business experience and expertise who are ready to provide mentoring assistance to you. So if you'd like to take advantage of that opportunity, all of which comes at no cost and is absolutely confidential, you could call the SCORE office in Hyannis at 508-775-4884, or you could go online to www.capecod.score.org, click on the Find a Mentor tab to get started. I also know that many of you attending today's webinar are located in geographic areas served by other chapters in our Massachusetts, Rhode Island district. Mentors and subject matter experts in each chapter in that district are similarly available to provide mentoring assistance to you. Their website access is listed here. You can go to those sites to access the process to start finding a mentor to assist you in your business. You'll also see on this slide a reference to Coastal Community Capital. It's a lending organization based here on Cape Cod, which is actually licensed to do business throughout the state of Massachusetts. They're a non-traditional lender. We at the Cape Cod and Islands chapter of SCORE work frequently together with them to help their clients to flesh out their business plans and strategies and to help our clients to understand the full range of financing that may be available to them. They are a good alternative lender to work with. And so if you have the desire to explore that possibility, their contact information is right there. Finally, a word about today's procedure. Everyone has been muted except for Lara Fleury. We ask that you enter any questions or comments that you have in the Q&A feature on Zoom. It's simply reserve chat if you have specific comments, but questions go into the Q&A. It's just easier for us to keep track of questions as they come in if we have to avoid toggling back and forth between the two features. I will endeavor to have questions posed to Lara as they come in. So feel free at any point in time, if you'd like clarification, to enter your question into that feature. We'll answer as many questions as we possibly can during and after the course of the presentation, and we'll undertake to provide written responses afterwards if there are some that, due to the limits of time, we just are unable to reach. As you all know, the webinar is being recorded. As I mentioned earlier, we will send a link to that recording to all who registered for the webinar once it is available. I will also launch a poll near the end of the session, and we'd appreciate it if you would fill that out before you leave. It simply helps us to understand whether our educational programming is meeting the needs and desires of the business community that we are seeking to serve. And with that, I will turn things over to Lara.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jim. Okay, let me get my screen shared here. All right, so I'm very excited to be able to share some knowledge about Excel with you today. So Excel, I find, is a very robust tool. I've used it, I think, about probably 17 years for both work and personal use. So I've used it for budgeting, timekeeping, data analysis, and then personal use, creating a menu. So in addition to just being a good tool for numbers, it's also a great tool, I find, for organizing information. A couple of general things about Excel before I jump into it. There are multiple ways often to do the same task in Excel. So if you are somewhat familiar with it and I show you how to do something and you've learned to do it a different way, it's really not a right or wrong way. It's just what's most efficient for you. And as long as I've been using it, I continue to learn something new about it, I feel like, on a regular basis. So it's just a great tool to work with. And also so I'm using a desktop version of Excel today. When you get Office 365, usually there's an option to use the cloud version or desktop. Usually you can do both as part of just the basic package. The desktop version I'm just more used to, so finding the menu items is almost muscle memory to me, but the cloud-based version is very, very similar. There's very few differences, very subtle differences. So just want to point that. And everything, there are a few things that you can do on the desktop version that you can't do on the cloud version, but they're more advanced. So everything we're looking at today, you should be able to do whether you're using a cloud-based version or the desktop version. And I want to give you an idea of kind of what we're going over today, so you know what to expect. So the first thing I'm going to show you, and Jim, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. So I'm going to show you some templates. So we're going to look about 3 templates that come with Microsoft Excel. They're part of the package, so everything I show you today, you should also have access to with your Excel product as well. And there's also templates online that aren't part of Microsoft, but the nice thing about the Microsoft ones, you can download and you know they're safe and they're part of the package. And then we'll look at some formatting tools. I'm going to look at some of the more common ones that I find helpful. And then finally, at the end, we'll take a look at some formulas and that are useful for both timekeeping and for creating a budget or budget projection. So, and I know I have a very ambitious agenda today. My priority, though, is to get to make sure, I take the time to answer your questions as we go. And if we don't get to everything, I think that's okay too. I think we'll still leave you with some information, hopefully that will be helpful. So I wanted to just list the 3 templates on a slide here because I know you'll be getting the recording, and these are the exact names of the templates I'll be showing you. So if you did want to reference them later, you would be able to, I'll show you how to search for them by name as well as we go. And then the formatting tools that I want to make sure I show you today is there's a tool called the Format Painter. I want to show you how to sort information, how to freeze panes, which makes your Excel sheets a little easier to read sometimes, how to use multiple worksheets, so how to pull in a formula from one worksheet to another sheet, and then how to set up drop-down list. So with that, we'll go ahead and open Excel and get started. So when you first open Excel, you should see a screen that looks similar to this. And it'll usually take you directly to the home screen. So to locate the templates, you want to select this new. And then you would see a search bar and with a preview of a lot of templates. So you can see there's pretty much anything I can think of. So calendars, I think I saw, yeah, chore lists. So really anything. And then they have suggested searches. So if I wanted to narrow the templates down to just business related templates, I could click on business. And so now you can see all kinds of options for business templates. So the nice thing about the templates, the formulas are in there for you, and it's just kind of already organized, and then you can make them your own as well. So I'm going to go back. So I know I want to look at this simple invoice that calculates total. So having the name, I could search for it in here, but because I've had it open recently, I have a shortcut for it right here. So I'm just going to select that. And then once you search for it and select it, you'll see an option to create. So I'm going to select that. And that opens it up for me. And probably can make this a little bit bigger here. So when I first open it, it's in this cell A1, and there's a little note that is set up. It tells you a little bit about using it. So if I want to get rid of that, I'll just click out of that cell into another cell, and it hides it. If I want to refer back to it, I can click back in the cell where it's set up. So Excel is arranged by columns and rows. So the columns are the letters and the rows are the numbers, and then the cell aligns with the column and row number. So you can see here, I'm in cell C7, and I can also see up here on the top left-hand corner, it will tell me what cell I'm in. So now I'm in B7. So it's just kind of a quick way to see which cell you're in. And this right here is the formula bar. So this is just the company name. So if you see just the text in there, you can type right over it. It's not a formula. If it starts with equals, then you know it's a formula. So let's go ahead and just put some information in here quickly. And then again, you can make it your own. So for example, this invoice is kind of yelling at me, it's big. So I want to maybe make that a little bit smaller. So just if you're used to using Microsoft Word, it's very similar. There's these different menu tabs up here at the top. So I'm on the Home tab, and I can adjust the font just like I would in Microsoft Word. So I'm just going to go up here to font size and make it a little smaller. So again, you would type over it with your information, make it your own. With a template, you do have to be careful. If you type over a formula, then the formula is no longer going to be in that cell. So you would just have to re-enter the formula if you needed it. And here's a good first formula to look at, actually. So what this does, you can see it starts with an equals. So that indicates to me it's a formula. And it automatically, whenever I open the sheet, so if I save it and open it tomorrow, it would populate. So tomorrow it would populate with tomorrow's date. It always populates with the day that you're in the sheet. And then you can edit it. So let's say I'm doing an invoice ahead of time. So I want to change it to tomorrow. I can just enter plus in this. Again, I'm in this formula bar at the top here. So I'm going to say +1. And then I'm going to hit tab on my keyboard. And you can see it gives me tomorrow's date. And then
Lara,
say,
we did get one question.
oh yeah, sure.
Iris Clearwater asks if you could please repeat or show the slide again with the names for the 3 templates.
Oh yes, let's pull that up here. So we have invoice that calculates total. And then we're going to look at a basic customer contact list and a general ledger with budget comparison. And again, we'll have the recording of this too as well. Okay. So with the formula, you can also subtract a day. So if I wanted to use yesterday's date, I could do that as well. If I'm in this cell and I don't realize there's a formula in here and I start typing, so I can see it's no longer a formula. It's going to always keep that date unless I change it, but I can always select undo and it brings back that last formula I had in there. Tab. And again, let's just type the formula just to show you. So it's equal, oops. And then today, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then I'm just going to hit tab. And then we have the formula there. And then I want to enter a couple of things here to show you a couple of different functions in Excel as well. So let's enter product 1, product 2. So I'm not being very creative today with my product names, but there's a reason I want to just show you this function. Now that this is probably not something you'd use so much in an invoice, but it's definitely something I use a lot in other setups. So one of the, I think the most frustrating things with Excel when just starting out is knowing how to know when your cursor is in the right place to perform the action you want in Excel. So you can see now that I have this cell selected, I have this larger plus sign here. And if I scroll down to the corner of this cell, it changes shape. It's a darker, smaller plus sign. So that's how I know I can now drag this cell. So again, I'm right in the corner of the cell. It changes shape. So I'm going to left click and just drag it down. And this is what's cool is Excel knows to fill it. So this we'll use this feature on several of the demos today to show you the different ways you can use it. But it automatically puts it in consecutive order here. Now let's say I didn't want to do that. Let's say I wanted to have just copy it. You can see once I dragged it down, I now have this tiny small square at the bottom here. And I can select the drop down arrow for this. And I can select copy cells instead of fill series. And then it copied all of the product twos instead of filling the series. I'm going to go back to fill series. And the other thing that's handy, and especially if you have a long table, this one's not that long. I'm going to go back and where I see that plus sign again, instead of dragging it down, now I'm just going to double click and it automatically fills it down to the bottom of the table. So just a kind of short, quick way to do that there. And then now let's type in some amounts because I want to show you a little bit about how those cells are formatted. So I'm just going to type in some random amounts. So I didn't type the $sign. Excel knew to put it in there for me. So how did it know that? And that is because this template is set up as the specific number for this cell. So if I go back to the top of my screen, and again, I'm still on this home tab, there's this number setting here. And you can see it's already set to accounting for us. So I could also change it to currency. And it just changes the format. It still keeps the $sign, but the format is next to the number instead of left aligned there. We'll change it back to accounting. The other thing, there is a shortcut here So let's say I have it general, and then I want to change it to accounting. I'm just going to select that $ right here at the top, and it changes it back to accounting. So you can see this cell that has product 1 in it is general. It's just set. It's not really any specific format. But if I select here, it's accounting, and that's what automatically adds the $ for me, so I don't have to type it. And again, another nice thing about the templates, they have the formulas in here for you, so it automatically sums that up for me. And then, but let's say it didn't. Let's say I'm building this template myself, and I want to sum the column of numbers. So I'm just going to take out that formula. There is this nice shortcut. So you can type a formula, but there's this auto sum feature that I use very frequently in Excel. It's towards the top right-hand corner, also on the Home tab. I'm going to select that, and it automatically puts in the formula for me. And so I don't have to. Now, let's say, and I'm just going to show you this. I don't know why you would use this in an invoice, but for other things, I want to show you just to give you an idea how the formulas work. So let's say you didn't want to add the whole every number in here. Let's say you just wanted to bill for product 1 and product 3. So it's very simple. It's not simple, but it's very similar is what I meant to say to if you're writing out a arithmetic problem. So I'm just going to say, so I'm going to take this formula out. I'm just going to say equals. I'm going to select the cell that I want to add. So again, I just want to add product 1 and 3. So I'm going to select product 1. And in here in my formula bar, I'm going to select plus, type plus on the keyboard. I'm going to select product 3. So you can see it's aligning up with cells D13 and D15. I'm going to select tab. And then you can see it just added those 2 cells for me. It's similar, and if for some reason I couldn't find the auto sum shortcut and I just wanted to sum the whole thing, I could type 11 and type the word sum, open parentheses, select all the cells, close parentheses, select tab, and it automatically puts it in for me. But the easiest way to do it is using that auto sum function. And again, there's so many formulas in Excel, and I don't have them memorized. It would be impossible for me. But there's help functions, and there's just lots of information available to use formulas. And then just the more you use them, the more it kind of comes naturally.
Lara, let me ask you a couple of other questions that have come in.
Yes, definitely.
Carol Moore asks, what's the difference between a formula and a function?
I don't really know definition wise. I think a function would be more like
I think a function is just the process. In other words, it's addition.
yes.
6 and 6 is 12 is the function. The formula is
equals 6 plus
X. Yeah,
6.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then sometimes I don't know if this is correct or not, but sometimes I would refer to like the ability to drag down cells as a function of Excel. Whereas the formula, is exact what is written in here.
And then Jacqueline Wheeler asks, would you go over the formula for using subtotals, please?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to just show you where to locate it. That's a little more than what I had planned on for today, because I wondered if that would come up, because I noticed when I select this, it automatically puts it in as a subtotal. So if you wanted to just say, like if you had a list of white shirts and red shirts and you want to do a subtotal for the different shirts, it is, let me remember where that is. Here it is. And why won't it let me? So there's this subtotal function here. And I don't know, there it is. I don't know why it's not letting me put it in here. Let's see if I can do this again. So yeah, I am sorry, I'm not getting it to work on this template. We'll try it when I get to the end and I'm doing like setting up my own formulas and stuff. We'll take, if I'll try to remember to take a look at it there. But you can find it on this data tab, and then there's this option to select subtotal, and that'll walk you through setting it up. Again, when we get out of this template, I don't know what I'm doing here that I can't use it, but when we get to the end, I'll try to set that up again.
Okay.
Any other questions on this sheet?
Somebody had just asked, how do we paste copied material correctly?
So there's a couple ways to do it. Both are correct. So let me just take this out here. So I am just used to using the keyboard as my option. So you would select what you want to copy, and I'll show you both ways. So I'm gonna, on my keyboard, I'm holding down the Control key and selecting C, and that copies it. And then I'm gonna, so there's 5 cells here. So I'm gonna select the 5 cells I want to paste it in, and I'm gonna select Control V as in Victor, and that paste it. You can also use the menu. So again, on the Home tab, I can do the same thing. I can select what I want to copy, select copy, and select the cells I want to copy it to, and select paste. Okay, any other questions that came up?
Just somebody asked, is it possible to copy from Word and paste in Excel?
It is. It's a little tricky. If you have a long list, let's see, I actually have a Word document up on my other screen here. And I have, it's my notes for our introduction. So I copied 3 lines, and I'll show you what happens if I paste here. So you can see it actually, that's interesting. Let's copy paste it here. Yeah, so it's not formatted great, right? So once you paste it in, but it did put it, I had 3 lines, it put it in 3 cells, and then I can go back and kind of format it differently as well. So it doesn't always do it very pretty, but it can be done. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it for now.
Okay. One other thing I just want to show you on this template, and then we'll go to the next template. Another nice thing about templates, like it's kind of set up for you. So I didn't type this here, and so when I changed the name to Cape Cod Company, it automatically, the way the template's set up, put it in here for me. And they have it set up that way. So all kinds of things you can do that are just with text or numbers. So the next template is this basic customer contact list. And I want to show you this one to just show you some additional formatting options. And then we'll also look at this one for creating the drop-down list. So again, we're in the cell A1. It gives me a little cheat sheet here, I guess, too. And also, if you want, if you're sending this template to someone and you don't want these cells in here, you can go to, if I can remember, data and data validation. And we're going to use this data validation for our drop-down list as well. But I'll show you how to get rid of these notes here, the way it's set up in the template. I'm going to select data validation. I'm going to select input message, and I'm just going to uncheck this show and hit OK. And then you can see that note is no longer there. But you would do the same thing if you wanted to set up your own note. You could go to data validation, input message, show, and then type what you wanted it to be here. So one thing I want to show you, this is set up as a table. And I know this because each of these columns have these nice drop down options here where I can use to sort or filter. And again, when we get to the end, I'll show you something that's not set up as a table, and we'll set it up as a table. It's very easy to do, and it just kind of makes things easier to read and easier to sort. I'm going to put in a couple of lines here just so I can demonstrate some formatting. And so let's see. Just bear with me 1 second. And I know this is not the right zip code, but we're just want to show you a couple things. Okay, so for the phone number, let me type that. So you could see when I type in here, it's not formatted as a phone number. It's just a bunch of numbers. If I select tab once I type, it's now formatted as a phone number. So how did Excel know to do that? Same thing when we were looking at that accounting piece where it put in the $sign. If I go back to my home tab here at the top, I can see the number. So this is a little different, right? It's set to special, not phone number. So how does it know phone number? So I'm going to select this drop down, and I don't see the word special here. So I'm going to select more number formats. And you can see specials here, and then it's phone number. So that's how it automatically formatted those numbers for me once I hit tab as a phone number. So same thing if I go to this zip code field and I hit special, more number formats, you can see again specials highlighted and it's under zip code. So all kinds of different options. You can do percentages. It's a lot of information in this number formatting here. So
Lara, if you wanted to adjust the width of the columns, what would you do?
Yes, so you could, same thing with that, where that it has to do exactly where you place the cursor. So I'm going to scroll up here to my column names, and you can see as soon as I get right between column F and G, the cursor changes. It changes from that down facing arrow to this line with left and right. And then I'm going to left click with my mouse and just drag and adjust it. Also, let's say if it's too small, well, that text is wrapped, so I don't know if this will work. Let me try. Yeah, so this is what I want to show you. So if you want to adjust it to fit exactly the width of what you need it, you can, again, put the cursor right between F and G, double click, and Excel kind of guesses how to adjust it. But again, you can do it your own way by just dragging as far as you want it. And you can also do that the same with multiple columns. See what happens here. Yeah, so you can see if I highlight the columns and do that same thing, it adjusts all of them so they're all the same width.
While you're on the zip codes, somebody said, Jacqueline Wheeler asked, the beginning 0 in zip codes sometimes are dropped in Excel. And I know there's a way to prevent this.
Yes, that is a great question. I've had that happen several times. So it's that number format. So I'll show you. If I change this to number, you can see it drops the 0. So what makes Excel know not to drop that 0 is by selecting that. So more number formats, special, and zip code. Okay. And so it keeps that 0.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. So I want to show you sorting. So I'm going to just type in a couple other things here so we can sort. And again, I want to see all of Wareham. So I'm going to put my cursor there, double click. Oh, it didn't work on the double click. So I'm going to just manually scroll. There we go. And we'll just put one more. Let's see. Okay. So because this is set up as a table, actually, let me first show you how you would sort if it was not set up as a table. Because there's two, having it set up a table makes it a little easier, but there's going to be instances where you're not going to set something up as a table. So let's say I wanted to sort it alphabetically by company name. I'm going to go to this data tab at the top here. And I'm going to select sort, and I can select alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order. So I'm in the column I want to sort. I'm in any cell in that column I want to sort. I'm going to select A to Z. And you can see it alphabetized it for me here. But because it's a table, we could also do that here. So I could go to this little drop down next to the column name. And I could say we want to sort Z to A. I could do that here. Then the other nice thing about having the table set up, you can filter. So let's say let's say I had a really long list and I just wanted to see the customers I have in Hyannis. So I would select Hyannis, select OK, and then it filters everything else out for me. If I want to see my list again, I'm going to select that again, do select all, and select OK. Okay, and then the other thing, let's say I have a set of, I don't know, 5 or so customers that I work with on a regular basis, and I don't want to type their name every time I go in the sheet. I want to just select their names from a drop down. So Excel has, so what we have open here is a workbook, and then within the workbook there are multiple sheets. So to add a new sheet, I'm going to select this plus sign at the bottom of my screen here, and it automatically adds this. They automatically titles it sheet 1 for me. I could move it if I wanted it before the first sheet. I just select it with the left cursor button and drag it, and it moves it. And then if I want to rename it, I'm going to right click on sheet 1, and I'm going to rename. And so let's call this list values. You can name it whatever you want to. And then let's say I want to make it easier to read. And say I have a bunch of tabs here and I want to just be able to color code them. I can also right click, select tab color, and then select any color here I want, just to make it stand out from the other tabs there. So that's how you create another sheet. So when we create a drop-down list, we have to tell Excel what we want in our drop-down list. So that's what I'm going to put in this tab for list values. So let's just put several names here. Okay. Well, let's say I have five names of customers and that I want to be able to pull into a drop-down list. So now I'm going to go back to the sheet where I want to be able to select from the drop-down list. I'm going to select the cell that I want the drop-down list to be in. I'm going to select, remember I told you we'd use this data validation again, so we're going to go back to data validation. And again, let me show you this because again, there's so much in Excel, I can't memorize it all. So this help function comes in very handy as well. So let's say I show you this and you can't remember how to do it. If I go to help and then I select help here again, I'm just going to type list, and you can see I have the option for list drop down, and it walks me exactly how to do this. I can select take me there, and it will take me to the last step that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to walk you through the steps just to show you those. But if I say I want you to see what that looks like, so it's a take me there. It takes me to this validation pop-up menu here, but let's go there manually just so I can show you how to do that. And you can also follow along on the help as I do this as well. So I'm going to go to this data tab, data validation again. And then normally it pops up with settings, but because I was showing the input message, it's on this input message tab. So I'm going to change that to settings. And where it says allow, it default is any value, but we want a drop down list. So we're just going to select list. And I am going to put my cursor in this cell here that says source. And this is where, leaving this pop-up open, I'm going to go back to where I put in the list of values. So I'm going to select my list values sheet. I'm going to select each name or all the names. And then I want to do one more thing here. I'm going to go to this error alert. And I'm going to uncheck show error. And the reason is, let's say there's another name that you want to just type that's not in your drop-down list. If I don't unselect this, it will tell me I can't type, that I have to select from the drop-down list. So this allows me to do either the drop-down or to type the name. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back to settings, make sure it's in there. I'm going to select OK. And let's see if it worked. So now when I'm in this cell, you can see I now have this little arrow, and look, there are my names. So I can just select the names. Now, if I go to the next cell, it's not set up. It's only set up in the cell that I originally put it in. But the same way we drag down that fill series. So if I drag this down, it's going to put Marie in all of them. It'll still give me the option to change. So before I put in Marie's name, I want to go ahead and, again, I'm looking for that specific plus symbol there. I'm going to drag it down. And then we see now every cell I drag down has that option for the drop down. And then let's say if I wanted to go back to these cells I'd already put in, I can do Control C that came up earlier for copy, Control V for paste, and then I have my drop down options here. And because I took out that the checkbox to give us an error where it's not in the drop down, I should be able to just type and it accepts that as well. It gives me a little warning, but it doesn't impact anything. So that's what those are the main things I wanted to show you on this sheet. Any questions before I go to the third template? Okay, oh,
I'm sorry, I was just, one person asked, are there any benefits in using Excel for contacts instead of Access?
I don't think so. It's just what you're most comfortable with. Excel's a little simpler, I find, but I think whatever you're most used to. Excel, Access probably has a few more advanced options with it. I haven't used Access in several years, but
the other question is, how do you set up the sheet as a table?
yes, I will show you that the last screen. So I'm going to show you one more template, and then when we go to the one after that template, I'll show you that. I'll have something that's not set up as a table, and we'll set it up as a table. And Jim, don't let me forget that, because I think that is something really useful. So
okay, and then just one of the comments somebody had was that Access is pretty complicated to use.
Yes, it is. It definitely has more like database type functions. You can, so that I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay, so our final template. Now this one is set up a little more complex, but I liked it for multiple reasons. So this is this general ledger with budget. So let's select this. And again, there's much more simple budget templates available as well. If you just in that search bar type in budget, and it will bring in all kinds. But this one, I like this one because it gives a year to date, it gives a monthly, and it allows you to itemize things. So I'm going to select create. And it opened it here. Here we go. Okay, so again, this is one that uses several different sheets. So you can see the different tabs here at the bottom. So here we have our year to date. So this is set up, it automatically pulls in different categories. You can change these to make them your own. The important thing to know on this budget is, on this template, I should say, if you change it here, you also need to change it in these two other tabs as well. So we'll take a look at that. These are not, there are some, where's the formula? Here's the formula. So this is a pretty complex formula here. It's pulling in from another tab. So it's referencing this general ledger code and pulling in from the itemized expense. And I'll do a couple to demonstrate what I'm talking about as well. So if you can change this general ledger code, but again, that's because it's looking at that code, it needs to be changed on the itemized expense and the monthly expenses as well. So the budgeted amount, so we can make that our own. That's not a formula here. So if I just change that to random amounts here, you can see, again, you can make that whatever your budget is. And then it will automatically populate the percent remaining. So we don't have any expenditures in this workbook yet. So we still have 100% remaining. So if I select monthly expense summary, again, this also will pull from the itemized expense. So this is where the setup is pretty complex compared to some of the other, definitely compared to the other two templates we looked at. So this, I'm on this advertising section here at the top. So it's just showing me advertising. And here it's just showing me building cost, client expenses, etc. So let's go to printers. Let's say I wanted to change, instead of printers, I wanted to say, do a category for rent. I can't change it up here. This cell is locked. So I would change it here. And so now it populated that as rent. So now everything with this 3000 code will be rent. I do need to change it here on that year sheet as well. So that's, if you're making it your own, make sure you're changing it everywhere that it makes sense. So let's look at itemized expense now. So again, it is referencing these general ledger codes. So let's just change that to 3000. And these are, this is just information Excel pulled in, the template had pre-populated as an example. So even though there's an amount here, it's not yet showing up on my monthly expenses because I don't have the date on the itemized. So let's go ahead and put the date in. So now I have a date, I have an amount, and I know that 3000 is for rent. The code corresponds to rent. So if I select monthly expense summary, I can now see for February, I have the rent, the amount I've had for rent, and then same thing year to date, it shows me that. So if we go back, let's say we do another one for March. Do 750. Although the 2000 is probably more accurate for our area, right? But if we go here, so March, you can see the 750, and then you can see it added it up for the year, and then I can see the remaining of my budget. Again, just showing you this to show you kind of what's available to do for budget templates. And then there's more for charities and sponsorships to include those as well. Any questions on this tab before I go to the last section?
Not at this point, Lara.
Okay. Let's see, let's actually close these. Okay, so this is something I just kind of did to show you some formulas, and then I'll show you how to do the formatting as well. So let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate what I did here. And then I'm going to show you how to set it up as a table. So I could just copy and paste this, but because I kind of want to show you a few things, I'm going to manually type it here. Okay, so again, we want to adjust our column. So I'm going to come up here between those K and L till I see the line with the left and right arrow. I'm going to double click. And I'm going to, let's adjust a couple more. Okay, let's see. So this automatically formatted for me, I think because I've been in here in the sheet before. So let's say there was no format. I'm just going to take out the formatting. So again, I could have copied and pasted, but I want to show you this format paint option. And I find this very handy. It's one of the probably things I use most in Excel. So if there's a cell that I want to copy the format, I'm going to select, so let's say I want this bold and shaded. I'm going to select this time in. I'm going to select this format painter. And again, I'm on the home tab still. And I'm going to select time in, and it automatically formats it for me. And then same thing if I wanted to do more than one cell, rather than having to click format painter, go back, I could double click format painter. And you can see once it's selected, my cursor now has this, I'm actually pointing to my screen, as you can see, like you could see me pointing, but it actually has this paintbrush icon here. And so that tells me it's just going to do the formatting. So I'm just going to select all these cells, and you can see it copied that format. But I still have this paintbrush icon, so I just need to hit escape on my keyboard. I think I can also select format painter again to, so I'm going to hit escape, and then I no longer doing the format painting. I'm going to take this out though, because I want to show you something at the end where we want Excel to format it for us. So the next thing I want to do, let me type my days. So again, the nice thing about Excel is kind of smart. It knows how to kind of fill things down. So you remember when we did product 1, product 2, so it'll also do that with days of the week, with months. So here I can, again, go to the corner of that cell I have selected here and scroll all the way down to Saturday, and it fills it for me. I'm going to double click to make sure Wednesday is not covered up there. And then let's put in some times. So let's say we not gonna work Sunday. So this let's do 9 o'clock. And I just want to put in a couple things here to show you how this works. Okay, so that's not formatted very nice, right? It's tabbed differently, so we'll fix that. But before we fix that, I want to show you a couple of other things here. What happens if I try to calculate the hours worked from these 2 times? So I want to subtract 9 o'clock from 12 o'clock. So I'm going to say equals 12 minus 9. All right, that is not useful to me, right? This value, I'm getting this error message. So let's fix that. So first of all, let's format these cells as times. So I'm going to go back to my number format here. I'm going to select time. And we're still getting an error message, and that's because I didn't put a space between 9 o'clock and AM. So let's see if that fixes it. It kind of fixes it, but we still It's given us 3. Well, let me show you if we scroll down. And again, same thing here. And it automatically, when I changed it to time, because I had not put in AM or PM, it automatically put in AM for me. So let me change that to PM. So this kind of shows us hours work, but it looks more like it's showing us 3 o'clock, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this in parentheses and multiply it by 24 for 24 hours in the day. And so the multiplication symbol in Excel is the asterisk, and it's above the 8 on the keyboard. So equals tab, and then let's format it as number. Okay, so that's a little bit better. All right, so now let's say we're doing consulting and we're charging $80 an hour. So let's put that in, and again, I'm going to drag that down. It copies it 80 all the way. I'm going to do my shortcut for accounting, then the dollar sign. And then now let's say we want to calculate how much we earned each day based on the hours we worked. So again, to start a formula, we do equals. And I'm going to say hours worked times the pay rate. And that's 0 because we didn't work any hours that day. I'm going to scroll down and you can see it calculates that for me.
Lara, is there a way for you to make the numbers bigger on your screen so people can see them?
Absolutely. That's a good idea. And you can see when I made them bigger, it actually, if you see this pound, 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 it means the column's too small. So again, just double click to adjust it to fit. Is that a little bit better?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then let's put in this double line here. So see how I have a double line here to indicate that's where I'm adding, that's where my total is. So up here under font, again, most of the things I'm showing you today are on this home page, and then we did a couple things on data. I'm going to see where this square is. And unfortunately, I don't think I can make the menu items bigger on my screen, but I'm going to select this drop down, and then there's all kinds of options for different borders. So I'm going to do the bottom double border, and that will put that below everything I have selected here. Okay. And then remember our auto sum. So let's go ahead and do that again. So I had that. And then let's do that with the hours worked as well. And so we can check our work. Let's just check Excel's work. We don't really need to, but I just want to show you this to show you a formula. So I'm going to say equals. And then, so we know we worked 19.5 hours times $80 an hour, and it should equal that, and it does. So we're good. Okay, so the one thing, not one thing, but one of the things I want to make sure I showed you is how to set it up as a table. That was a question that came up. So I'm going to highlight the cells I want as a table. And then I'm going to go to insert here at the top. And I'm going to select this table. And then it automatically fills in the cells I indicate. I'm going to select OK. And now it's set up as a table for us. And then I can, up here you can see there's different styles. So I can just hover the mouse over each one to get a preview to decide which style we want. So I'll do that one. And then here I didn't name the day column, so just put in column 1. So we'll name it day. Okay, so that's, so again, you select the cells you want as a table, you select insert, you select table, and then because it's already a table, it's not giving me the option anymore, but then you'll select the different styles. So if I go to table design, now that it's already a table, I can again see the different styles. Okay, any questions? I know we're almost out of time, so I'll address that in
No,
just a
we
second.
could, somebody asked, to auto sum, do you need to click first on the cell where the total should be?
Yes, you do. So anywhere, any cell I'm in, that's where it's going to put it. So actually, I don't know what would happen if we are interesting. So it kind of guesses where to put it. So if you see, I just randomly selected a cell here. And since there was nothing right above it, it went to the left. So you can sum rows or columns. But yeah, you would want it where, so let's say I want to sum up what 80 times 7 days is. I could, or I just hit here and then again, it knows to sum that column.
And then how does this compare to using QuickBooks?
I wondered if that would come up. So I do not use QuickBooks. I use a personal budgeting software from Intuit. I think QuickBooks is Intuit as well, called
is.
Mint. Okay. So I don't have a lot of familiarity with QuickBooks. I guess one thing is Excel is, if you have Office already, then it's
Free.
It's free. Exactly. That's right. Yes. So that would be that would be one advantage of it. But I imagine QuickBook, it has a lot. I know because I looked this up. QuickBook, you can scan in receipts, I believe, and stuff
Yes, you
like
can.
that. So it has a lot more functions, but it actually it has a cost too. So I think it's more specifically for doing budgets. But Excel, you can still do a budget. And
I think also Excel is more flexible if you're trying to look at projections and how things are changing mid-year and what the impact would be on the full year totals. There's just more flexibility inside of Excel for that function.
that makes sense too. And then you can do inventories as well as budgets. And so I don't know, again, I don't know enough about QuickBooks to know the function there.
Also, could you please repeat the advantage of working in a table versus an Excel worksheet?
Yes, so the table is actually within the worksheet. But then the advantage of having so you can have multiple tables in the same sheet. But if you look at this first chart here, is basically the same thing as this, except it's not a table. And so the table it's kind of formatted automatically to be easier to read. So I could go through each cell and highlight this blue, highlight this blue. So that's one advantage. But the other advantage, it automatically allows you to sort. So if I wanted to, and again, this is probably not the best example because it's a short list, but let's say I had multiple weeks, months, and I just wanted to see all Mondays. It just makes it a lot easier to filter and sort by having it set up a table. So easier to read is really the main advantage I find.
I am just providing to people those other resources that you mentioned to me yesterday.
Okay, great. The one, and I didn't get to, I wanted to show you, but I believe the YouTube video, really, he does a great job about doing financial projections. And you know, I know I didn't get to that today, but he goes really in depth in that video. I don't know the person who did that video. It was one I found very useful. It's I think it goes back to 2015, so it's a little older, but it's still all relevant. And it's just a 20-minute video, and he explains it very well.
And then someone asked about adding charts.
Yes, so that I think that would be it's more advanced, like a Excel 2. We could do webinar, like a second webinar, but it's similar to adding the tables. You would go to insert, and then where is it, charts, and then you just do the different charts. So I don't know that I don't have these tables probably set up where they would make sense to do a chart, but you can see. So it's that insert. So you would highlight the cells you wanted to chart. And again, I could probably do a half hour on creating charts, but just a quick overview, insert, and then charts. Anything else?
I'm not, yeah, just hang on a second. No, I
Okay.
think that is it for the moment. Does anybody have any further questions? Again, we will be sending the link to the recording once it's available. We will also, I've provided the additional material that Lara had referenced. I will add that in the email with which I send out the link to the recording. Someone said to me the GACF Learn free video isn't opening. I will make sure, Monica, that when I send the email, the link to that is working. So when you get the recording, you will get a good link to that video if you're having a problem opening it right now.
Yeah, so I don't know why I tested. So I just typed in it's GCF
Yes.
learning.org, and then it automatically pulls up this URL here when I type that in. But it should be, let's see, GCF learning.org. Oh, I typed it wrong.
GCF Learn, and the learn is uppercase and the free, the F is uppercase.
It looks like there is some compatibility things that are coming up. Okay, so I'm always a little hesitant to, when I'm screen sharing, type in a URL because I never know what's going to come up if I type it.
I've had the problem too.
So, yeah, then when I start typing, it automatically pre-fill with gcflearnfree.org. So
again, I will
yeah.
make sure that we send it out and it will work. Well, actually, Monica is now indicating that it works at https://edu.gcfglobal.org/en/.
Okay, so that looks like for some reason when I type GCF Learning, that's the URL that automatically populated. So that makes sense. Okay, good.
So everybody should have that at this point. I'm actually writing it down myself so that I can send out the accurate one to people when they are looking for it. Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Fire away. Otherwise, Lara, thank you very much. And it was a great presentation. I think the pace was very good for people, and people got a lot out of it. And we'll think about maybe doing an XL2 at some point in time in the next month or so.
I would love that. So thank you very much, everyone. And I appreciate everyone's time this morning.
Excellent. Thanks very much, folks, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.